Welcome back to When Sports Met Sarcasm. Super Bowl is over, and hopefully you took advantage of that blueprint, and hopefully you took advantage of Matt Collins' most receiving yards in the game. But we move on in the calendar here, and the next thing up will be March Madness, where they take 365 Division I NCAA teams, and they shrink it down 18% all the way to 68 teams. Now, this episode is all about how you pick the biggest upset this year. I guess we could give a little context. The biggest upset of all time in March Madness history was just a few years ago. It was when the Purdue Boilermakers took on a team from New Jersey named Fairleigh Dickinson. Little context here, because we're talking about how we're going to get the biggest upset ever. Biggest upset this year. Here's the context with Purdue. Purdue is coming in as a 1 seed because they had a Canadian giant named Zach Edey. And he kind of made up for a lot of the flaws they had, especially the 3-point shooting and especially their turnover rate. They turned the ball over a ton. But because they had that Canadian giant, it masked a lot of things. But one thing you should have known going into this matchup is Purdue, the 2 previous seasons, lost to double-digit seeds. So it shouldn't shock you if they lost to another one, should it? Their confidence is fragile. Everyone knows when a 16 seed takes on a 1 seed. Obviously, it's only happened twice with Fairleigh Dickinson and Maryland, Baltimore County. But when it happens, every team except for Purdue's fans, which it can be up to 4 or 8 teams, whichever venue you're at, are all cheering for Fairleigh Dickinson. That pressure is going to mount. Not only did we have that going for us, another thing that we had going for us was Purdue had a lot of freshman guards. Believe it or not, they're still there. So with that context, the one thing we're hoping for this year when you look, you're going to do matchups. And I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it through Bart Torvik's website. Real simple, real easy to match up 2 teams and find the obvious weaknesses and the obvious strengths. And then you're just hoping up that certain people's strengths match up against certain people's weaknesses. You hope that those strengths are actually an underdog who now is facing a favorite, and they're the ones who have the weaknesses. So going into this matchup, we already know Purdue can't shoot the ball in the ocean, all right? It's a fact. They're terrible from shooting threes, wide open threes. We know that. But the problem is they got that Canadian giant. So going in to the matchup, because this is all pre-flop, going into the matchup, you want to see and you can find any weaknesses in this matchup. So we're hoping and praying. What are the chances that Fairleigh Dickinson can take advantage of those turnovers that Purdue has, or that turnover rate on defense? What are the chances they had to defend the 3 well? And I'm pretty sure Fairleigh Dickinson's coach is going to know everything that I know. So he's going to know as long as we don't let Zach Edey beat us, that gives us a remote chance to win. If we just let them feed the ball inside to Zach Edey, we're toast. So, once again, hope and pray. Let's see what Fairleigh Dickinson do. Let's see what we got here. Boom. All right, look what we got here. Turnover rate, defense. Fairleigh Dickinson. Take a look at that. The only green spots. So the only thing that Fairleigh Dickinson is good at is what Purdue sucks at. Look at Purdue. They look pretty darn good at everything. Oh, little context. Bart Torvik numbers. Dark green, really, really good. Dark pink, really, really bad. And then everything shades in between. So light green is still good, but not great. White is neutral. Light pink is bad, but not very bad. So when we just take the matchup here, the glaring obvious thing I can see, if you're not blind, and I feel like this is something that the blind could see and the deaf could hear. Right here. Turnover rate, 43rd in the country, Fairleigh Dickinson. They're the 325th ranked team on this list. But they're 43rd in turnover rate. And they're 31st in turnover rate defense. So now we're thinking, okay, we got something here. Like we said, their only positives are turnover rate defense. The 3 points was basically what they needed to exploit Purdue's weaknesses, and they packed it in on Zach Edey. So now we're hoping and praying, pre-flop, because this is all pre-flop. We now see that there's a possibility that Fairleigh Dickinson can get a lot more possessions. They play a higher tempo, too. If you look all the way to the far right, the second one from the right is adjusted tempo. So as you can see here, Purdue was basically stuck in quicksand. They're slow, 64.9. As you can see, Fairleigh Dickinson, higher tempo, more possessions, speed it up. So if they can somehow turn Purdue over here, we have a chance to be in the game. Now, first of all, once you see this line, okay, it's 24.5. When we see the glaring weaknesses of the turnover rate and the turnover rate defense, you should be going to the windows. Now, as you can see, we did place a wager on Fairleigh Dickinson. We did place a wager on the Fairleigh Dickinson money line, a 16 seed. And the whole reason being, we're hoping and praying they pack it in on Edey. We're hoping and praying that Purdue shoots it like they always do, 1 out of 5. And we're hoping that we win the turnover battle by 5 to 6 or 7 possessions. Now, let's see what happened. Here's the box score. Ding, 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 ding. How about this? Here we go. Purdue shot 5 for 26 from the three-point line. And like I said, I watched that live. They were wide open, and they still missed. And believe it or not, a lot of those players are still playing now. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith. They're still playing. Look at the turnovers. They had 16 turnovers against the 16 seed. What are you freaking doing? You can't hold on to the ball against the 16 seed? Well, that's something that we were hoping. 16 turnovers to 9. 7 possessions there we saved. They had 11 steals, Fairleigh Dickinson. And as you can see, the final score, Fairleigh Dickinson Knights from New Jersey. 63, Purdue 58. Third straight season, Purdue lost to a double-digit seed. Matt Painter. What a gem. Now, that's exactly what you're looking for. I'll show you the Edey quote. Look here on the very, very, very bottom. A lot of times they would have one dude guarding from behind and one dude basically sitting in my lap. They were full fronting the entire game. Made it very hard to get catches. Credit to them. They had a great game plan coming in, and they executed it very well. What else would be their game plan? Really? We're just going to not cover the 7'4" guy who dominates everybody, but we're just going to cover the guys who can't shoot and turn the ball over? Matt Painter, you suck. All right. We are going to be welcoming a new audience real quick here. So hang tight. Rosalind, you're up.
When sports met sarcasm. Join me and the analyst of all analysts as we break down the biggest sporting events of the season. The only thing we take serious at When Sports Met Sarcasm is the analysis, which is free to the public, and our results speak for themselves. Sit back, relax, subscribe, and enjoy the show.
We welcome in a new audience. Welcome to When Sports Met Sarcasm. We'd like to thank everybody who just finished watching the World's Strongest Man competition. Congratulations, Reno Nell from South Africa. Now, for our new audience that is just hopping in here, let's go real quick to the calendar so we can show what we cover here on When Sports Met Sarcasm. A lot of people real interested in the Super Bowl video, how we took the blueprint from the Jaguars game, because obviously the Jaguars could stop the run, but they couldn't stop the passes. And it worked out pretty well. So let's show you the calendar here, and we'll go through what we're going to cover. Hopefully some of these are the sporting events that you like to watch and tune in. As you can see, March Madness is going to be the only thing we will cover up until the Final Four. It is all college basketball. It is all the time. We are going through the Bart Torek numbers daily. We're tinkering with all the statistics to see if there's something that we can find at double-digit odds, or if there's something that just totally sticks off the page. But at least you see the calendar, March Madness, Final Four. And the Final Four is in Indianapolis this year, for anyone who doesn't know. Now that we're going to get into, I'm going to show you where the previous champions were rated at this exact time the last couple seasons. So to see if we can pinpoint anything from this point going forward, and then locate the odds and see if there's anything that we really like. The one thing I want to point out here is when you're betting futures, you need to figure out which market you're betting into. Now, this is an obvious one. This is a national championship. So there's only one winner. It's not like you're betting, team to make a Final Four where you have 4 possibilities, or Sweet 16, so on, so on, so on. The national champion, as you can see here, first of all, you're getting a lot of the same teams. But second of all, it's a lot of 1 seeds for good reason. They have the easiest path, least resistance. A lot of 2 seeds, and a couple sprinkled in 3 seeds with the obvious UConns and Florida being a 3 seed. But you're getting a lot of 1 seeds. Now that's futures for national championship. Now, other things that I said before, like Final Four or Sweet 16. Look here, since 2000, 16 times a finalist was not a number 1 seed. That opens things up a little bit. 8 times, that was a seed 4 or higher to make the finals. So don't be deterred. Don't get discouraged on futures of a 5 seed, a 6 seed, like a Tennessee or an Arkansas or whoever is it that you're trying to pick. But don't get discouraged because they have a 6 seed that they can't make a run to the finals. It looks like it's going to be very tough for them to get over the hump if they get there, kind of like a San Diego State recently. But don't underestimate them to go on a 3-4 game run. So here, now we're going to go to pinpoint this time last year and 2 years ago. And I'm going to show you here 2 years ago where they were all situated at this time. Take a look at this. So obviously you can see, now this was a select sample size that I do from January 1st to February 19th. So you can say, well, yeah, it's only basically a month and a half. It is. I basically like to take conference tournament time. I mean, not conference tournament, conference time. So a lot of teams do play a lot of cupcake non-conference early in the season. And I just like to throw those out. Purdue's the perfect case to show for that. Excellent in the non-conference, and then basically it's crap the bed. So if we look 2 years ago, one thing that you have to look if you're looking on your own is look in the rebound, offensive rebound, ORB. Look at the offensive rebound percentage. Remember what you talked about. Green is good, pink is bad. Everything shades in between. Look at all the top teams. They can all offensive rebound. Looky here, though. Little caveat. Defensive rebounding is not as important as offensive rebounding. Now, I'm not saying you don't want a defensive rebound. What I'm saying is you have to offensive rebound. You don't have to defensive rebound, but you have to offensive rebound. It's college. People miss shots. They're awful. They're awful shooters. Don't watch the NBA if you think. Don't watch the NBA if you watch college, because you're going to realize that college kids can't shoot, which is obvious. Now, UConn, already here. So this was February 19th, 2024. They were the number 1 rank here in Bart Torvik, and they actually did go on to win the championship. As you can see, Houston. Let me tell you a little bit of grain of salt here to take with the numbers, because I will tell you to trust the numbers. Know your conference. St. Mary's almost like, not this year, but the last 3 or 4 years, they're like top 5 early on in this stuff. It's the West Coast Conference. You'll also see Gonzaga, too, coming up this year. Now, as you can see, these are the top 15 teams. It looks like we're littered with everyone who basically made the Sweet 16. Now, if you go over by line items, like Auburn, pink. Kansas on the bottom has pink. But the top seeds are all there. And let me point this one out. How about you see on the 4 line there? That's called Purdue. This was the year after they got beat in the 16 as the 1 seed versus 16. Look at Purdue and go all the way over to the 3-point percentage. Purdue went from one of the worst 3-point teams to one of the best 3-point teams. And that's why they went to the finals. They still had Zach Edey. But the reason they go to the finals is because now when you pack it in on Zach Edey, they just kick it out for 3 and bang them. And before you know it, they're in the finals and they lost to UConn, a better UConn team. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to 2025. Here is 2025. So this is last season. For anybody who watched, knows, I don't know how Duke lost to Houston. They should have beat Houston. They were up 7 with like 65 seconds left. But they blew it and they choked. Now, if you see, Florida here is in the 5 spot. Obviously, they were the champions. But if you go across their whole line, there's no pink. They're obviously better at things that they aren't. But you don't want to have any pink. And could they offensive rebound? Yes. Okay. So they could offensive rebound. And as you can even see here, back-to-back seasons, Florida, good at rebounding, offensive rebounding. Not as good defensive rebounding. Didn't matter. Even if you look here with Duke, same thing. Look at Duke up there in the 2 line. offensive rebounds. Oh, they were good at defensive rebounding too. But as you can see here, finals, Final Four, champs. 4 out of the 5, the top 5. And if you would have watched Missouri that year, you would have realized that they just didn't have any size, and there's no way they would kind of stay up with anybody because they can't rebound. So as you can see here, still in the top 5. Now let's take a glance at what's happening this season. See if there's anything that we can point out going forward. So this is now this season. This is up until February 24th. Same sample size. We're going the first of the year, all conference. This is quad 4, so this is basically all competition. Gracing the top of the line is Florida. Florida is one of the probably 5 teams that could win this, 4 or 5 teams that could win this, that actually have double-digit odds. And they're sitting there at the 1 line. The reason why Florida's on the 1 line is because, first of all, they've started to figure things out with their guards, Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan. But the other thing is, they are so freaking long. You can't teach size. So before we get to our double-digit future, and yeah, we're hinting at who it is. But before we get to that, let's go to the best fake ad reader in the country. Let's not pay the bills and let's join Rosalind.
Did you know you were in the wrong and just couldn't figure out how to apologize to someone? You're in luck. The John Cena Apology app has over 20 different types of apologies in over 30 different languages. Mandarin Apology John Cena is the most popular, but we have John Cena, apologizing to everyone, in English, Italian, Spanish and of course numerous Chinese dialects. If you are sorry and need to apologize, don't look further than the John Cena Apology app.
Thank you, Rosalind. As we hinted at before, the Florida Gators. They're one of the only probably 4 teams that can win it. Maybe 5 if you include Illinois. That can win it that actually has double-digit odds. The problem is the three-point shooting, they got better. But let's go into the actual positives. We said this. You can't teach size. They are so long. Everywhere they go, center's long. And they can rebound. They're just so long. And if you can get Xavier Lee to actually start hitting some threes, Boogie Flan's already had this success like we talked about right here. They've improved the three-point percentage. It was abysmal for so long. 28%. They've been a lot better, though. Like we said, when we showed that graphic shows the beginning of the year. Until now. They're one of the top teams in the country. They shoot the 2, and they also defend the 2. Combined, better than anybody in the country. And that's the size. Number 4, let's bring up something here, like Houston the other night. Everyone's now, oh, Houston's terrible. The problem with Houston is they can't score in the half court. It's this simple. They can't score in the half courts because they're a jump shooting team, because they don't have anyone to throw it into that can actually score consistently. So they'll throw it in every now and then, maybe 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, but you can't live that way. So they end up shooting jump shots and not being able to really offensive rebound. Shouldn't shock anyone. Without them getting turnovers and without them being able to play through the fast pace and basically through points off of turnovers, they have no chance. Nothing against the players or the coach. Number 4, best odds of most likely winners. Duke, Michigan, Arizona. They're the best odds, especially now that Duke's been exposed for the positive reason. They're now 3-4 to 1. Michigan and Arizona the same. Number 5, experienced guards. We touched on that. Xavier Lee. Senior Layden. He came from Princeton. Boogie Flan. He transferred from Arkansas when they made that Sweet 16 run where they lost to Texas Tech in overtime. They have experienced guards. Everyone will talk about how this draft class is so good. It's unbelievable. Well, college terms, they're right. The college terms, though, they're all freshmen. So now they're going to be the best person in the March Madness? I saw Kevin Durant. He played for Texas. They didn't win a national championship. They lost real early in the tournament. Now, you could say that maybe they had a better team, worse team. That's fine. But they do have experience. So with a senior guard from Princeton and Boogie Flan, like we said, came off that injury and he looks fine. And he made the run with Arkansas. 13 to 1. Now, which comes with anything. 13 to 1, 20 to 1. We're putting ourselves in a good position. But any way you look at it, it is still gambling. It is.
Gambling. Gambling.
Gamble. 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 It's not gambling.
Sounds like gambling.
Gambling?
Who said anything about gambling?
Gambler, right?
Gambling.
Gambling.
That's all you talk about is gambling, gambling, gambling.
All right, let's wrap up the show. Glad we had the new audience coming in from the World's Strongest Man competition. Now, going forward, we will obviously, once the bracket comes out and they have Selection Sunday, that's when we can actually dive into matchups. See who are the 3s and the 6s. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that Toppin's out for Texas Tech. They're going to be a 3 seed. That's probably advantageous for the 6 seed in that region. There's a lot of things that'll have to go through. But since we took a look at that, the one now, the 2026, let's take a quick peek at it. This is what you should be looking at. This is what you should be looking at going forward, futures-wise, as of right now. And a lot of people are high on Kansas. Someone needs to tell me why Kansas can't shoot 2s or 3s. Why is that possible? How is that possible? They can't shoot 2s or 3s? Good luck. Kansas at least is good at turning you over, or not. So everything we see here, like if you want me to do a quick rundown, I'll just do this. Like Nebraska, look at these, look at the pinks on Nebraska here for offensive rebound and free throw rate. Nebraska's on the 9 line. Go over to offensive rebounding. They are awful at offensive rebounding. Awful. Do they shoot the 3 good? Yeah. Do they shoot a lot? Yeah. But if you miss them, they have no chance. They're not getting any of those 3s that they missed the offensive. They are a chuck. Toss them out. They have literally no chance of winning it. Now, I'm not giving you much because it's Nebraska. They've never even won a freaking tournament game. But that's a glaring weakness. Texas Tech, now the Toppin's out, and they got two pinks there for the turnover rate on the defense. They don't get to the line at all to save their lives either. Purdue. Somebody please tell me. Purdue. Look at the Purdue line. Let's go all the way over to 2-point percentage defense. They're 336 in the country. Do they have 5 guys out there when they play defense? Holy moly. So just remember, look at all those stuff if you're playing futures now. Obviously, things change once the bracket happens. We'll have conference championships. There'll be a ton of stuff to go through. You can see the qualifiers. There's certain teams that, like back in the day, was Grand Canyon. I believe Tarleton State was serving suspension for going up a level from D2 to D1. They were unable to take part in the postseason tournaments. So therefore, even if they win, the other team will go in. And you can find odds on teams to make or miss tournament. Go through and find that out. We showed you the Purdue one against Fairleigh Dickinson as our biggest upset. Fairleigh Dickinson lost to Merrimack in their conference championship, but Merrimack was going from D2 to D1. They had to serve out the suspension of going up the level before they could take part in the postseason tournament. But Fairleigh Dickinson lost their conference tournament. So that could be a trivia answer for any of you people hanging out at bars. So stay tuned. We're going to have more information, just like that Super Bowl video that a lot of people commented and liked. We will have more information going forward on this. If you can get Florida at 13, 14, 15 to 1, I think they are worth a shot, since I do think that they're probably a top 5 team. It's going to come down to their seedings. With Joe Lunardi, I want to say he's got Florida right now on the 3 line, but I think they have a really good chance to get a 2. And if they can get a 2, that's what you want. So let's go to Rosalind. She can finish it up. She can take us out. Until next time, make sure you wager on these and make sure you comment on something. Let me see what you guys are thinking. Tell me what I suck at. Tell me what I'm good at. Rosalind. No, not you. You can't say that. Bye.
This break in the action is sponsored by Coca-Cola, the sugar drink that has helped increase the risk of type 2 diabetes to over 200 countries. Have a Coke, a tooth decayed smile, and a heightened risk of type 2 diabetes.
Thank you for tuning in to When Sports Met Sarcasm, the media that not only informs but entertains. Bye now.